Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tribute Talk. My name is Greg M. Thompson, and I'm your host, and I have a special guest with me today who has become a celebrity in his own right, not just a celebrity impersonator, but my guest today is John D. Domenico. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me on. Greatly appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for squeezing us in there. Now, I want to tell everybody a little bit about you that I know, but this is actually our first time meeting, but we have written back and forth and we know who each other.
Many years.
Yeah. So a lot of you out there may have seen John. You probably have on one of many late night talk shows or daytime talk shows all over the world because he has become, in my opinion, the premier Donald Trump impersonator.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Am I pretty close to that?
Yeah, it certainly seems that's the way we sell me. So
yeah,
number one in the world.
Well, normally I don't interview anybody in costume, but John is in the middle of recording cameo appearances that he is also doing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So he is actually dressed as Donald Trump. So I throw this at some people I feel comfortable with. So give us a little bit of Donald there.
Well, listen, Greg, I'm so excited to be talking with you. Right now, I'm doing such a tremendous job, I have to tell you. Have you seen it this week? It's been really, really incredible. And we're getting rid of the COVID-19. I call it the Kung Flu from Wang Chung. We're gonna get rid of that and all these looters and rioters. It's sad. It's sad, I have to tell you.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now, John, you have been an actor pretty much all of your life. Is that right?
Yeah, my entire adult life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am. And I started doing impressions when I was about 5 years old.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Who was your first impression?
It's probably Ed Sullivan.
Yeah.
It was probably Ed Sullivan because I was watching Ed Sullivan and then I would go outside. I grew up in a row home neighborhood outside of Philadelphia, but if you ever went there, it looks like you're in South Philly. And my neighbors would sit out. This was the late 60s. And not everyone had air conditioning, including us. So we would watch Ed Sullivan and I would come out and go, now, right here in our shoe. And I was just precocious 5-year-old. And I would see John Byner's act and Frank Gorshin's act and all these other impersonators. And then I saw David Fry and I was like, wow, I was blown away by David Fry because he was the first one who he just didn't do the voices, but he did like a narrative structure. And my first album I ever bought, other than Carlin, was David Fry, Nixon, A 4-Year Fantasy.
Oh, no kidding.
Basically, like, was like the entire album from beginning to end was a narratively structured story. So, and he did about 40 voices on that. And then Gabe Kaplan was also on that and did the additional voices. So it was one of these things where, he wrote it and he did the voices and it's a story and it had a huge impact on me.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then when you became of age to actually start making a career out of acting, were you a straight actor or were you an impressionist?
I did the impressions, and then also one thing I didn't mention was I had a severe speech impediment.
Really?
So, I had a really bad speech impediment.
Wow.
So, but when I did the voices, there was no impediment. And then when I went to first grade, they tested me, and then I did speech therapy for 8 years, first through 8th grade, 2 times a week for the school year. And it was a huge help to me having the speech pathologist work with me. Because what it did, it gave me a much better understanding of actual vocal production and creating sounds through your vocal mask, and then actual production in the mouth, throat placement, nasal placement, lip, because they literally used to hold my face and make me make the right sounds correctly. So that was a huge help to giving me the mechanics of manipulating my voice and kind of giving me rules to work by, how to do it properly. And then for myself to kind of make my own my own voices, you know, and how to pull things together.
I had always wondered about that, like Rich Little and different people who do so many impressions. I'm like, is that something that is natural with them, or is that something that they learn and work at, and people were actually physically working with you with the tools to manipulate your voice?
Right, because they were teaching me how to speak the right way. But you know, when you learn all that stuff, and to answer what you just said is interesting, because I ask every actor, impersonator, every voice person I know, even, you know, singers, said, are you a natural or do you have a system? And I think, you know, Marcel Forestieri.
I know who he is. We've never met in person. Yeah.
He and I sat down one time and we basically have like the same system. Like I'm looking for like eight data points in a voice that help me break it down. And if it's in my genetic range, if I can, you know, off the top of my head, like, I can probably do this. So that's what I'm always looking for, like those data points, and then genetically, am I in that person's range?
So there are some people that you like, I'd like to do that. No, I'm not capable of doing that.
Right. You're like, I'm not gonna be able to do that, you know. And like I love doing Morgan Freeman, but I can only do him when I get up really early in the morning and my voice is really low. You know, so it's like Morgan.
You know, I'm gonna throw this little side eye in there, not to you, but my point is, I wish other people would realize that they can't do everybody.
Well, you can't. Yeah, it's not possible. And then there's some voices that, you know, Frank Caliendo, who I'm a fan of and always been impressed by, he does. When he did John Madden, I was like, I have to figure out how to do this voice. And I was like, how is he doing this? I worked and I just could not get to where I wanted to be.
Yeah, he's for those of you who don't know, he's a comedian, and that's one of his famous bits is doing John Madden.
Yeah,
and he's really good at it. He's really good.
Because sometimes you'll hear somebody do a voice and like, well, I can do that. I can do that voice. I can do, you know, and I just have to spend the time to work on it. And other ones, you're like, I cannot figure this voice out. So you always need that way in. And you know, when I build a voice, you know, I was doing Wayne from Wayne's World with Mike Myers. And it was like, all right, excellent. Hi, I'm Wayne Campbell from Aurora, Illinois. So when he started doing Austin Powers, like, well, I know I can do this because he's in my genetic. I'm already doing one of his own voices, so it was an easy shift, you know. And I know you do Austin Powers,
yeah, groovy, baby,
yeah, baby.
And that's funny because I can't do Wayne. I can't do Wayne from Wayne's World, but
sure you can.
Oh, well, I've never really tried it, but it would probably be like a Southern Wayne, you know.
Right, Southern Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people don't realize an English accent is actually very close to a Southern accent. And I had been doing a show for years, so I had the English accent down, and then watched the movie about 30 times. Now, so you also did straight acting, and then at what point did you start actually? What was the first character, and at what point did you say, I'm going to put on the costume and do the makeup and the wig and do the whole impersonation?
I always, because I started in theater, and I, you know, did, you know, high school plays and college plays, and then I got out, and then I was doing local theater, and then I was in a sketch comedy troupe. I was a copywriter at an ad agency for like a year, and then after that, I never looked back. But when I started doing character work, my first big job, which just didn't fall in my lap, I had auditioned for it, but in Atlantic City they had opened Tivoli Pier, which was part of it was Trop World, but it was Tropicana. So it was an adult amusement park, like a $25 million indoor pier, and they were looking for interactive entertainers. So I was doing Groucho already, and Columbo. And I always, for me as an actor, since I was trained as an actor and I did a lot of theater and then off-Broadway stuff, for me, I just have to have those. I got to have the components. I got to have all the wardrobe. So they were looking for somebody who could do multiple characters, and I auditioned and I got it. And I had all the pieces. And over that period of time, it was a great 1-year contract where I got to expand and do even more characters. And then my feeling was, well, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it as an actor. And
Right.
as an actor, you're creating the illusion and you're minimizing taking the audience out of the performance. So whatever I could do, like with Trump, the wig and the makeup and the shirt and the ties and blue contacts, and I used to dye my eyebrows. I keep my head shaved because it makes it easier to put wigs on, and I'll put the money in for like the really good wigs, and I'll have my wig master build the wigs. So to me, it's always been like, this is the way I have to do it. I've got to be as authentic as possible. Even with Austin Powers, I always had all my suits made by a custom tailor. And I think to me, it made a big difference because I want those external things that help my performance.
And a lot of people in this industry, when they first jump in, I've talked with a lot of people, and I've seen them, I've met them, where they go, oh, celebrity impersonation, that sounds like a cool thing to make a little extra money. And I'll run down to Party City and buy me a costume and get a wig. And that's not the way to do it.
No.
That's not the way to do it as a professional. And I will admit, when I first got into this as Austin Powers, I pretty much went that route.
Right.
And I had the glasses, and I remember Jana Jose at my convention. It was about our third year, and she said, Greg, if you're going to impersonate Austin Powers, put some lenses in those glasses.
Yeah. I went to my eye doctor and I got those Ray-Bans and just had prescriptions. I needed them anyway. I couldn't.
I do too.
Yeah. Because I was doing a lot of roasts as Austin, and I was like, I can't see this script. So.
Yeah, my worst time was on New Year's Eve, and Jana Jose booked me in a casino on New Year's Eve. It was a dry casino, and New Year's Eve is my birthday. And I called her on New Year's Day, and I said, if you ever, no, it was that day. I said, if you book me in a dry casino on New Year's Eve, I need the info before I get here.
Wow, where was the dry casino?
It was in Minnesota. It was in Minnesota, and it was a dry casino. I remember it was me and two Shagadelic girls, and I said, hey, after dinner, we'll all meet at the bar. There was no bar. And this was before Uber, and I called the front desk, and I'm like, look, we're here for 2 days. It's New Year's Eve. There's no bar. And she's like, okay, well, I'm not supposed to tell you. There's a guy named Dave, and here's his number. So I called Dave, and I'm like, we're in the casino. Do you know of a bar called the Blue Goose? And he said, yeah, I'm standing in it. And I said, well, how much would it cost for you to come and get us and take us there? He said, $5 a person. I said, come on.
Wow.
But anyway, that was interesting for me that I went, you know what, here I am running a convention. The least I can do is go 100% with a good wig. I had my teeth made for me.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I had the Bubba teeth the first time, and it made me talk like this.
Yeah. Yeah, they're enormous. I remember someone, handing those out one time.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna jump. You do Austin Powers, and you've also done Wayne from Wayne's World.
Yeah.
And go ahead and just roll off the other characters.
So Austin Powers, Dr. Evil, Dr. Phil, Trump, obviously, Guy Fieri, classics like Groucho, which there's not a big demand for. I still love doing Columbo, and then there's lots of voices I do that I don't do makeup for, because they're just it's not, unless there's prosthetic. I do Leno, but to do the prosthetic chin, I have to hire a special effects makeup artist, and so it gets involved. I do it when the clients have the money. I think I did them 4 times last year, and that was kind of surprising to me. But even with people like I'll do the voice of Clinton, but I'll do Walken, but I don't do the wigs and makeup for them. Yeah.
Now, were you already doing Trump before he became president?
I've been doing Trump since 2004, and I've always been I've been fascinated by him because I was working in Atlantic City, but in the mid 80s, when I was trying to move to New York to be a full-time actor, you're researching the city, you're trying to learn about the city, and the person who I heard about the most was him and Leona Helmsley. And I'm like, who is this guy? Donald Trump. So I was always interested in him, and then I started working in Atlantic City, and I think he had Trump Plaza then. Yeah. I was doing an off-Broadway show called Tony and Tina's Wedding, and we spun off from New York, and we went to Philadelphia, and then we were in Philly, and then when we closed there, we went to Atlantic City. So we were at Trump Plaza. So I got to meet him in 1990. And then for his 55th birthday, I was Austin Powers and I co-hosted his birthday. So I got to spend a little more time with him then. So it was just, he was always kind of like part of like the scenery, you know, because I just found him just an endlessly fascinating guy. And around 2004, at the end of the first season of The Apprentice, an agent called me and said, "Are you doing Trump yet?" And I said, "Not yet." I said, "There hasn't been a big call for it yet." And Daryl Hammond was doing him, I think, at the time, and before that was Phil Hartman. They were the only two people. And when the call came in, they said, "Well, it's for a voiceover and it's pretty extensive. Do you think you could do the voice?" And I said, "Give me 1 hour." And I did my notes real fast. And then I figured, I'm from the Northeast, I'm Philadelphia, I'm nasal. So everything, I should be able to do this voice. And I called her back and I said, "I'll go in for the audition." And I ran out, bought the first season of The Apprentice. It had literally just come out. And I spent 30 hours that weekend breaking his voice down into even little tiny components. And then I reassembled it. And then I went into the audition. And that was on a Monday. And I did his voice, which is different now because his voice is evolving. But I went in and I got it. And it turned out it was for him. And it was the Trump voice for the boardroom game, not the Apprentice game, but the boardroom game at the Taj Mahal.
Oh, no kidding.
So I worked. So I was in a studio in Princeton, New Jersey, and on the ISDN line were a couple of his executives, and they were the ones directing me. And the only direction I ever got was be meaner, be meaner,
really?
be meaner. Yeah, literally, I was in blue team, green team, blue team. You're horrible. You're terrible. You guys don't know what you're doing. You're bad. I have to tell you. So. So then within like a year of doing a lot of voiceovers as him, a lot of commercials, I got a call from another agent in New York and said, "Are you doing full on Trump? Have you got the wig and everything?" I said, "Not yet, but I've really been giving it a lot of thought." And they said, "Could you put everything together in a month?" And I said, "Yeah, I should be able to do a month." So I went to Bob Kelly. He makes all the wigs for Saturday Night Live, and and Bob has been a huge supporter. Like we hit it off, and I love what he does. I'm fascinated by wardrobe and makeup and wigs. And I went to him and I said, "Bob, I need a wig. I need a Trump wig." And he said, "Well, John, it'll cost you $7,000." And I'm like, Bob, I'm like $7,000. And he says, "Well, I got one already. I could sell that to you on consignment." And he took me over and I said, "Why do you have a Trump wig already?" And he goes, "You know that Visa commercial with Trump in the car and he's on the top of the Chrysler building and he's got to jump in the dumpster to get it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's my wig." He goes, "That was the body double." So I bought the wig from the commercial and I had that for years because
kidding.
Bob's wigs were so well constructed, and it was like $5,000, which was a lot of money in 2005 when I bought the wig. It was a lot of money.
A lot of money now.
Yeah. Well, these are all like $4,000, except I'm here in Vegas where it's a little cheaper.
Yeah.
So I bought that, and then my first appearance on television was for him.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was a cross promotion between The Apprentice and Embassy Suites, and Embassy Suites new uniforms that they had designed on The Apprentice. So he was unavailable. So I went in and I did my appearance on Fox and Friends, which ironically, years later when he announced, I ended up back on. And I did that and I stayed on for like 2 segments. And that was, from what I've been told, I'm the third person other than Phil Hartman, Daryl Hammond. I was the third person to appear as Trump on national television.
No kidding. No kidding. So when he became president, or first of all, when he announced he was running, you were like, "Hey, score."
No, I wasn't, because I followed his career and he's been toying with politics for many, over 40 years. And he dropped out many, many times. And the last election cycle before he announced, he dropped out again. And I was here in Las Vegas and he was talking to a group of conservative women and he started dropping the F-bomb. And that day, a friend of mine from CNN called me and said, "He's dropping out today. And I said, why? What's going on? He said, NBC's pressuring him. He has to come back to The Apprentice or he's got to pull the plug. And he dropped out that day.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then the next 4 years happened. And then he did announce. And my phone rang off the hook. And, I was like, oh my God, everyone's, dude, you're so lucky. And I said, hold on. I said, I've been through this before.
Mm-hmm.
So he announced, and it seemed like he was in it. Then he made the John McCain comment. And I thought, well, that was a good month and a half. We're all done. But his numbers started tracking up, which I thought was so strange. It was very counterintuitive. And I thought, oh, wow. And I thought, if I can make it to September with him, it's going to kill. And in that time, like, I started working with Conan. I started working with Fox. I started working with a bunch of shows. And then the interviews started coming in. And then it was just this insane ride from the time he announced all the way up to the election. So it was almost a year and a half, but it was pretty amazing what happened.
No kidding. And you just recently kind of experienced that, because I saw your video where you took on Bernie Sanders and did an awesome job. And it's like you had just put it together.
Yep.
You put it out there, and like a week later.
Right. Literally. And I really thought it was going to go. I really thought they were going to go to the convention and hash it out at the convention. It didn't even make it to the convention.
Yeah.
I was working on, but the funny thing is with Bernie Sanders, I want to hear
a little Bernie in there.
Yeah. So Larry Sanders does, Bernie Sanders on Saturday Night Live. So I had the wig, and I had the wig made by my wig person here in Las Vegas. And I had it, and it was, you saw it, and then he kind of dropped out. I mean, he's not going anywhere, but he's certainly not getting the press he used to. And somebody said, hey, I saw you do Bernie Sanders. Could you do Larry David for a video? And I said, I've got the wig. So I ended up doing Larry David. So one good thing came out of it.
We had a great Larry David impersonator to come to Sunburst 2 years ago, and he actually won the Mirror Image Award, which meant he looked more like a celebrity than anybody there.
And did he sound like him?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But he came to the convention, won his award, went back to New York, never heard from him again. He may be watching right now. But I don't think he was getting into it in entertainment aspect.
Right.
Now, I want to talk quickly about Cameo, because you are on Cameo, and you are one of the very few celebrity impersonators who is on Cameo, because Cameo is for celebrities.
Right. Yeah. My fiance Michelle and a couple of guys I'm in with in a mastermind group with, they were like, you got to get on Cameo. You have to get on Cameo. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, this is for like known celebrities, the Housewives of Beverly Hills and sports figures and movie actors and TV. And they said, you should just get on it. And I was like, and one of my concerns was I'd have to like shoot these things and have to get into Trump, because it takes an hour to get this wig on and the makeup and the wardrobe. And I signed up, and it took me a while to get signed up.
Because they have to approve you.
Yeah, and it was over a month. And I was like,
wow,
something's not right. And then I called somebody I think I knew on Cameo, and they put me in contact with their account rep, and then they kind of sped up the process, and then I got an account rep, and then things moved along a little quicker, and then I started doing them, and it was the last week of October, and to date I've done 750 cameos.
No kidding.
And it has been the greatest thing, especially with the pandemic and the fact that you can shoot them. You have a window of time when you can shoot them. It's not like 24 hours or 48. You can stretch it out. So it's been a wonderful thing. It's been great comedically for me, because I'm putting out every time I shoot one of these, mine are usually 2.5 minutes, sometimes 3 minutes. So I'm jamming in a lot of comedic material. And sometimes I'm testing new material in these things. So it helps me to say them out loud in this Cameo format. I really try to go give them as much as possible, because I've got the White House press room set that I built in the house. I had some set builders build that, and we have the lectern and the lighting and all that kind of stuff. So I really want to give them a product that is above and beyond somebody on their couch or on their car, on the 405.
Or the lunch counter that I've seen.
Yeah, well, like, and like I'm not a celebrity, but the guy who does the soup Nazi from Seinfeld,
Mhm.
he does them in his car on the 405. So yeah, and good for him.
Yeah.
So I want to offer something a little more than that. So I've gotten a really good response. I'm currently #1 in politics on Cameo.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So and so I feel very lucky. I'm so happy to have it, and because of it, I've gotten other work. Some people have booked me as Cameo, and I ended up doing a commercial outside of Cameo, and I've done a lot of offline cameos. I've got like 4 of those today. So that it's really nice to have that happen. That it's
Now,
kind of a growth platform.
particularly what you do, John Morgan said when he was doing GW Bush that, B. Fogelman had told him, if you look like the president and sound like the president, that's the goose that laid the golden egg right there.
Right. Oh, he looks so much like him.
Yeah, he really does.
He really does.
And he started at Sunburst. Yeah, I can say that. Anyway, I'm wondering, you're getting bombarded with people wanting you to appear, and you've been on all of these shows all over the world. Are you booking directly, or are you booking through an agent, or are you booking through numerous agents? How are you doing that?
I work with Key Artist Group for all of my live stuff, and then for TV and film, I'm with Media Artist Group, and Media Artist Group in Los Angeles, and then for voiceover work, which I do a lot of, I work with Buckwald in New York.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know Lisa from Key Arts Group.
Yeah, Lisa. Yeah, Lisa is awesome. Lisa handles a lot of my stuff. We were really, obviously the pandemic, we can't do anything. But I was on the road about 25, 30 weeks a year, pretty much from the time he announced. It was really crazy. It kind of plateaued. We knew where we were at every year. So it was, and my main thing for many years was doing multiple characters at national sales meetings. So I would the opening cocktail party was Austin Powers. Then the next morning I would do the opening general session as Larry King or Chris Matthews and interview the CEO. Then in the afternoon I would do something else, and then the next day we do a town hall and I'd be Dr. Phil. And then we do a team building event and I do Howie Mandel. So my whole thing was to be like a Swiss Army knife. I write all my material. I'm self-contained. I do all my own makeup, and then I work within the production company to deliver, hopefully a good product. And
that's awesome for a client. They can.
I've had for them it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and that's originally I had done my first corporate job. I think it was 96, 97, and it almost happened. It was like I didn't even know what corporate was. I didn't. I was a stand-up comedian trying to be an actor in New York City, and I got booked by Sony. And they flew me to Florida. I think I was at the what's the one? What are the higher end ones at the Disney World? The Swan or something?
There's the Swan and the Dolphin. Yeah,
it was a Swan, and it was one of those two. And I was like, oh my! Like they flew me first class. And at the time, I was doing stand up, so I'm just driving all over the country doing gigs, doing stand up. They fly you first class. They put you up at this beautiful hotel. You're working with an unbelievable production team. These are Broadway people. And then after I did that first job, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I do not want to drive to Pittsburgh and play the Chuckle Hut. This is what I want. I want to make a lot of money. I want to work with great people, and I want to stay in great hotels. So then it took me about a year and a half to figure out how to get that work. And then that's what I went after. And that's pretty much what it's been. And then obviously we've had our downturns corporate.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm going to ask you a couple of obvious questions that a lot of people watching may want to know, because I personally will never go into politics because I want everybody to like me. And when you go into politics, at any point in your career, half the people in the world don't like you.
Right.
So, and so I really admire people who are impersonating people in politics. I couldn't even do that. A friend of mine stopped impersonating Donald Trump because he couldn't take the negativity. And I've talked with several people, and they get it and they take it in stride. So I'm sure you are getting your share of, hey, we hate you and stuff like that. How do you handle that?
Well, one thing is I spent a year as an intern for United States Senator Arlen Specter, who is a Republican and moderate Republican. I like politics. I never thought I'd be doing a political character, though. I really like, because the Trump the Trump in my mind is the Trump from the 90s. It's this Faustian kind of character. You know, he's Shakespearean in his style of doing things with the family and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, I get crap every day.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming majority of the stuff is very, very positive. And one of the things I like to do is I don't have an agenda about Trump. So when I perform, when I was doing a show here in Las Vegas at the Sahara, after the show, people would come up to me and say, "We're pro-Trump and we loved you." And then 5 seconds later, people come up and go, "We can't stand Trump and we loved you." And my goal as a actor entertainer is to do the most authentic Trump and entertain everybody. I don't want to alienate half the audience.
Right.
I don't understand why anyone would want to do that. I don't get why comedians do that, or people are outspoken. It makes no point to me.
When I do my shows, I've had somebody in my show to make a comment about women, and I'm like, we just lost half our audience, right?
Yeah,
we just lost half our, and that's the same thing, and that's what I think is wonderful when somebody is impersonating a political character. They don't take any agenda up on stage. Their goal is simply to entertain the people.
Yeah, I walk a very fine line with Trump. Obviously, Austin Powers and a lot of these other, it doesn't matter. But with him, you've got to walk a very, very fine line, which I'm comfortable with. I just want to make people laugh. You're going to get people who, I mean, I've had hardcore conservatives who I know say, "Dude, you are so funny. You're hitting the mark." And then other people who don't know or know the history of what I've done just come at me, you know, and it is what it is. So.
Well, let me ask you this. I know I would bet my last dollar on this that Donald Trump has seen you perform since he
I know he does.
been president. Yeah. Has
Yeah.
he commented anything one way?
Nobody's commented other than the fact that I've posted photos when I was at Fox all the time. I was meeting a lot of his key people because a lot of them were there. And I met Kellyanne, and she said, "Can I get a selfie with you?" He said either he loves you. I think she said he loves you. Or I know she said he likes you, but it was like, "You're the nice Trump." That's what she said. "You're the nice Trump." And I thought that was, because there were other, obviously Alec Baldwin, who I worked with recently, cannot stand him. And I think that corrupts his performance. And that's fine. That's his choice. But, I don't know if you've ever seen Alec Baldwin do Tony Bennett on SNL. You can tell he loves Tony Bennett. So that love comes through the character. So, one of the things I was taught, one of the first things you're taught when you start pursuing an acting career and you're studying acting is you have to love the character you're playing, and at the very least you have to like. Otherwise there's an internal disconnect in the performance. Then it becomes a performance. So you want to inculcate the character.
Right. And I think that I'm thinking of something coming to mind now that that's more of having fun with the character than making fun of the character.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah. If you can be in the moment as the character, that makes a big difference.
Well, I'm really glad that Cameo is working out well for you, and it gives you, gives you income during.
God knows what the next few months are going to be like.
And I want to really thank you for joining me on Tribute Talk. This has been a lot of fun. I'm finally glad I got to talk with you because we sent messages back and forth, like we've said.
Absolutely.
And now when I see you on TV, I can go, I know him.
I know that guy.
So you're in Las Vegas right now.
Yeah, I moved here 9 years ago. Because I was on the road so much. It was like, I remember I was flying. I did a show in San Diego and I was flying back to New York, and we punched through the clouds at Newark, and it was rainy and it was cold, and it was, it's so gritty, and you're just like, why am I here? Why am I here? I'm never home. So,
well, I'm going to, something I meant to ask you earlier. You mentioned Trop World earlier.
Yeah.
Where was that?
That was the Tropicana in Atlantic City.
I worked that one time.
You did?
I did.
Yeah.
I used to work for a show called Medieval Times.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah, and I was their master of ceremonies, and we were dark for 6 weeks. And so for 10 days, we took the entire show, horses and everything, and put them on stage at Trot
Wow.
World.
That's
So
incredible.
and there was about 5 feet of snow outside. I remember.
Yeah, there
that.
are some cold days in Atlantic City.
So you're
Not like
enjoying
Vegas.
I was going to say you're enjoying Vegas. That's a whole different animal
it's a
there.
great place to live. You can get in and out of it. We're starting to slowly reopen here. It's tough for, again, I feel very grateful with Cameo. A lot of my friends who are singers and dancers and lighting guys and sound, they really, is very little they can do.
Yeah, there's not much. There's not much.
Yeah.
So, do you have plans for after this? Do you have gigs coming up later on in the year that
all the gigs were canceled. My big whiteboard here in the office, everything we have one that was moved from the beginning of May to the end of August, but we haven't seen anything come back on because, when I do corporate, you're talking a minimum of 700-800 people, anywhere up to 5,000. No one's going to put their team on a plane right now.
No.
So
no.
I'm very aware of that. So I'm just trying to come up with find more voiceover work in whatever voice I'm doing, and just shoot more stuff here and shoot more green screen stuff. And we're just trying to figure out how to make this work in these very surrealistic times. It really makes you sharp. Like what can I do? What can I do?
It does time to work on your act. It absolutely does.
Yeah, a lot of writing.
I know you mentioned some agents earlier, but do you want to repeat those, or is there a way?
Oh, sure. Well, you can go to JohnnyD. For Cameo, you can find me on Cameo just as my name. And as far as agents, it's Key Artist Group, Lee McDonald, and then Buckwald. Lee's amazing. She works really, really hard.
Yeah.
And like Lee says there too. And then for the TV and film is MAG out in Los Angeles, and voiceover is Buckwald. But if you go to my website, johnnyd.net, you just land there and go wherever you have to go.
.net.
Yeah. JohnnyD.net.
Well, that's awesome. Well, once again, thank you for joining me on this. Hang around just a second, and we'll chat in just a minute. But any final thoughts, messages, or concerns you want to leave us with here?
Well, I think what I just said, we as performers and impersonators and comedians, and we just need to figure out how to do this. One of the things I've been doing is a lot of Zoom calls. I have 2 Zoom calls tomorrow. So, and maybe pick up a new character and work. Here's the golden opportunity to kind of prep for when this is over. And
before you leave, can we get a little goodbye from the Donald?
Absolutely. Hold on, let me take these off. All right, everyone. This was absolutely the most viewed interview in the history of interviews, and I'm so excited to meet Greg. He's really, really incredible guy. He was begging me to be on this, begging me. It was unbelievable. Just everyday tweets and Twitters and texts, and finally I'm on. So make sure you're here for every episode of Tribute Talk, because it's the greatest show in the history of shows. I mean, other than The Apprentice, which was the #1 rated reality show ever. Believe me.
Okay. Thanks, John. I'll talk to you in just a second.
All right, Greg.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Tribute Talk. My guest today has been John D. Domenico, the #1 Donald Trump impersonator in the world, and he's doing a fantastic job, and I want to thank him for joining me again. We'll see you guys next time. In the meantime, have a good day and bless your heart in the good way.